Okay. So this is Linda Conley speaking, and today is March 20th, 2014, and I'm here with Judy and Fred Murphy, and this is part of the oral history project for the town. We hope that we'll have some interesting stories that people will enjoy today, and I hope that people will like them years down the line, as time goes by. So Judy and Fred are a married couple, and they have been here for quite a while. Judy, can you tell us how long you've lived in Hopkinton?
I came here in the third grade. Grew up here, graduated from high school here, moved away for a little while, and then after we were married, we came back, and we've been here 37 years. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Okay, can you place some decades or some time, attach some time to that? What years did you?
Well, you were here probably in the early 50s.
Yes.
I was here in 47. We moved here, I was 3.
Okay.
So, and my dad had the drugstore, Day Pharmacy.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Walter Day had the pharmacy. He passed away sometime in the 40s. And so my father came up to run that drugstore, and he
In what
kept-
time?
he
So
kept
what
the
time
name.
was that? Yeah.
That was we moved in 47. I think he was here in 46.
Okay.
I was one of 5 children, so finally brought the troops up from Natick. And
And can you Day's Pharmacy being right on Main Street?
it was right on Main Street. I think it was 24. It's where the photographer has his place
Photographic
now.
images.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, but I know the Day Pharmacy had actually been here even 100 years ago. In fact, in 1915, when Hopkinton was 200 years old, we got a little blurb from the Milford News that for a Day Pharmacy, big ad they had in the paper.
I have some old bottles, that say Day Pharmacy
That's
on
right.
them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got 1 or 2 with on the sides, little ones. Right. They used to imprint them right into the glass. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So do you have any stories or recollections about Day Pharmacy, or did your dad?
No, I didn't work in the store. My brother did, my older brother, But I do remember we used to have to get down every second Saturday and clean out the cellar and trash day and everything.
It had an ice cream fountain. It was
did.
full of Ginny dolls. It was just a wonderful little place to
true.
go, very quaint.
Love that time with the ice cream counter in a pharmacy.
I think there were 2 or 3 stools in there you could sit on. Not many, it was a very small
Yeah,
store.
it was. It was a small store. It wasn't a big store.
And then he relocated to the top of the hill where
Yeah,
the bank
right.
is.
Half of the bank.
Which bank?
Right over here, the
Right
Middlesex
across the
Bank.
street.
Oh, okay.
Right across from where we
Okay.
are.
DP Day had a store there, clothing
Yeah.
store.
That was Dan Day. He was Walter's brother. He lived right across the street from me on Church Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it was a dry goods store, right?
that's right. Haberdashery
Yeah.
type.
If you look in some of the old directories, there are really neat ads and information about the dry goods store. So
In fact, I've got a table at my house that came from that store, 10 foot long.
With the clothing sizes imprinted on the
Yeah, the
front of
size
it.
like 38 or something was written like so many times that it's permanently etched into
Wow.
the side of the table. So
Oh, that's great.
you know,
That's great. Okay. So Judy's got, forgive me for interrupting, but you're unique in that your parents are from the town? Your parents were from the town?
My
and your
father was from the
grandparents?
town, and my grandfather was a member of the fire department here back,
he
20s,
was born,
30s?
1886, Harry Hamilton.
Harry, that's your grandfather?
Yes, that's my
Born
grandfather.
in 1886?
Yeah.
Do you know where he lived in town, when he lived in the town?
He to my knowledge, he's always lived on Grove Street, right over here,
It was
the next house up from
Next house up
Colellis.
from Colellis. That's the house.
The
Really?
red one.
Okay.
Yep.
So he's had a woodworking shed out there, and just fun memories of spending nights and cookouts, and family got together because he had 3 sons who all lived in Hopkinton. One on Fenton Street, one on Mayhew Street. And
You want to
dad,
mention their names?
he had Douglas, who was the oldest. He had Duncan, which was my father, and he had Dean. So they all grew up here. I believe they all were in the service.
Probably.
Yep.
Okay. And
So
what
we-
and what's their back? Yeah, go ahead. You're going to say something.
What's their background?
Yeah, you know, were they
They-
English? Were they, were they? Where did
What
they
was their
come-
eth-
right? Their ethnic background.
I think they were English.
I think so too. But
Yes,
I'm not
German,
positive.
a little bit of German,
Yeah.
some English.
Yeah.
Oh, but they all worked locally at
I
then
think
Telecron.
A couple of them worked at the Telecron. Mm-hmm. You know, in Ashland, of course, that was the probably biggest employer around Hopkinton.
Oh, okay.
Back, in fact, my mother worked there for
So what
25 years.
what years are we talking for that?
Late 30s, early
Yeah,
40s.
30s, 40s, 50s,
Yep,
yeah.
because my father worked in Worcester up at Telecron up there, and then he was in the service, but he died unfortunately when he was 39. So, but my uncles were still around until they were well in their 70s and 80s, and stayed here.
Stayed in the town.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. So we grew up on Hayden Row Street. Wonderful neighborhood, full of kids, fun activities. You went out in the morning, never came home till dinner, just played. We had great neighbors up there.
So this is the 1950s. Yeah.
Early 50s. Yep. So it was
This
really-
end of Hayden Road, or
19 Hayden Row.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So we remember what? Kiwanis Day in the Common, bike parades, decoration.
It
It
was
was
a Kids'
just
Day, they
Kids'
called
Day.
it, yeah.
That's right, Kids' Day.
Kiwanis used to sponsor it every year. That was a big thing in the 50s.
You want to talk a little bit about that? What would you do on Kids' Day? Did they do?
Just remember decorating your
Yeah, there were
bicycle,
Yeah.
and you would get
parades,
prizes
bicycle,
for the best
yeah.
decorated
Yeah.
bicycle.
Stuff
And
like that.
yeah, I don't remember
And
what
they had
other.
games, see how far you could throw a baseball or something,
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Probably similar to what Poly Arts today is without the crafts. I mean, just
Yeah.
lots of fun for kids. Fire trucks. Yep.
Yeah, low key, little games. And
yes.
booths, different.
I don't know that there were that many booths. I remember that, they were, again, they just throw in a football or a baseball, trying to get distance or something like that. Even up for people in middle school age.
We both went to center school. In those
Yes.
days, you could walk home for lunch. So I have a friend who said she was often sent to Brown and Smith's over here to get the teacher's coffee and then walk back.
So tell us about Brown and Smith's.
Oh,
Like,
you could
just
probably
briefly. Yeah.
It was another nice place just to go and eat. They had magazines, 2 levels, cards. I think they had cards. You could sit at the counter, and it was just always a lot of people you recognized. Oh, same people.
Yeah.
Kids work there. Oh, just a fun place.
Yeah.
Oh.
Restaurant with a counter.
Yes,
Yeah.
restaurant with a
Yeah.
counter. Yeah. No,
No
Well,
tables?
I don't.
Well, I
There
think
was later
they
on,
did,
there were
but
tables.
not basically, when we were young,
No.
there wasn't. But I think Paul Annunziata, of course, with that display he had there, and left that. There was, he kind of covered pretty much Main Street.
But everybody's got a little bit of a different take
Well,
on
that's
it,
right. I think, and most of, I look for accuracy.
Yeah,
in that
right.
Because I'm a couple of years older than Paul. I was the same age as Joey. His brother was in
Okay,
my
so
class.
can you tell us how old you are, or what?
I'm 70.
Okay, and so what year were you born?
I was born, let's see now. 44.
Okay, okay. And is there stuff, was there information that you disagreed
Well,
with?
no,
him, or
I won't, there were a few things that I wasn't,
different
Yeah,
recollections?
right.
Yeah.
'Cause, some of the storefronts, because I knew all the storefronts too, because my father had one,
Right, right.
It was thriving downtown back then in the 40s, 50s, lots of businesses and Woods Pharmacy, Woods Superette.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom worked there.
What did she do at the
She was
Superette?
cashier there
Yeah.
at the Superette. It was
Yeah.
just a very small store. It's kind of like where Kate's Pharmacy is
Actually,
now
yeah,
on a
it's
little
where the
corner.
parking lot is for
Yeah,
Kate's.
Okay,
That's where.
Okay, that's
Okay.
where it was at that time. There was a big house there, four-poster, those four beams there. The Dwyer family lived there.
That you owned.
Yeah, my
You
father had
purchased.
bought that at one time, I would say probably mid-50s, because he didn't know if he wanted to have another spot on Main Street, to run his business from. Because, he always looked to the side. So he rented it out for a couple of years, but eventually it was sold, and but it was one of those, big old buildings, they say, with the big pillars.
right, right.
You don't have too many of those left.
Yeah, there's a few, yeah.
Yeah, there's not many. When you start losing them, you just realize you can't replace them.
Yeah. Can you imagine? So you grew up on Church,
Church Street.
everybody just rolling out of bed and going to work, going to school, right within a small
was-
radius,
Yeah, yeah, we all walked to school.
Well, the schools are all here,
Yeah,
Yeah.
In fact, the high school, when it's the middle school now, we were the first ones in it, and that was when I was in the 7th grade.
What year do you, what year do you
It would
recall?
have been 55, because we're supposed to go in there in September, but we didn't go in there until after Christmas vacation, because it wasn't quite ready. So I had half the 7th grade at center school, and the other half of the 7th grade was at the new junior, senior high school. So I spent 6 years up there, well, 5.5.
Do you have stories about growing up on Church Street? Anything that you can recall?
Well, there was
'Cause
just
that's a-
tons of people there, tons of kids, it seems like. We were next door to the Nailing family. There were 8 Nailins. And in fact, Terry just passed, the oldest one. He was my age, he was 70.
So what number on Church Street?
They were 18, we were
No.
14.
14.
Okay, yeah.
I grew up at 14. He was at 18, the next one to the church. So,
They had card parties in the basement.
Card parties?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
With
wouldn't say
poker?
that, they gambled. Yeah, because I had 3 brothers and
A sister.
a sister, and, yeah. There wasn't much to do in town, so Murphy's Cellar, as it was called, hosted many a card game, especially in the cold weather. Kids get out, didn't have anything to do, they'd come up.
Does Church Street look different now? I mean, are there buildings that are gone now in 2014? Because there's a couple, most of the buildings that are there are old.
Yeah,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
are. I think at the end of the street on the left, that's a new one. There were a couple of houses there, older ones that were taken down.
So that industrial, or the commercial building on
Yes.
the left?
Yeah, not the commercial, that was there all the time. The thread mill, it was Seaman and Cobb.
You could, yeah.
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 At that time, and.
You worked there.
Well, I
General
worked there,
Packets.
yeah, but it was General Packets at that time when I was 16 or 17,
What kind of business was that?
They did like sugar packets, those little ones, that they have to seal them. The individual, like you go to a coffee shop and, you
Right.
want a sugar, you rip it off.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
They did some of those there at that time.
I did. I talked to a woman, Helen, I can't think now of Helen's last name, but she worked in Seaman and Cobb's, and I guess in the 30s. And, you know, she didn't think that's interesting. I think that's really interesting, you know?
Yeah, it was a thread mill, I guess. That's what we called it. Now, I don't know exactly, you know, because I think even it functioned until maybe the early 40s. I don't know that it was. I don't think it was going in 47 when we moved here. Of course, I was 3 years old then too. I wasn't too worried about that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of Church Street was pretty much the same.
Did you go to St. John's?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Being a Murphy, huh?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
went to St. John's.
Again, you roll out of bed, you go to church, roll out of bed, go to work,
Yeah,
common, school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's right. You know, we we walked to school because even at the high school, it wasn't that far. So we always thought it was, but it was, you know, half mile and better, a little more than that from Church Street.
Did you know each other as children?
Not until I was a sophomore in high school and he was a senior.
Yeah.
Then we met each other.
Okay.
But, yep, I would watch him walk back and forth to work, as I could see from my house to Church Street.
Oh, okay.
So I could watch him. But
She was right across from Church Ave.
Right. Oh, okay.
That's what it's called,
Okay.
Church Ave.
Yeah.
Not
well,
Church
not
Place.
Church Place, which
Yes.
is
No
what we know it
such
as.
place
Yeah.
as Church Place.
Yeah.
It's Church Ave.
Okay.
And there was one family that lived on it. They were,
the Gallerini family, I don't know if anybody's
Yeah.
ever mentioned them.
but
There
they were,
was
you know, that
7
house has
kids?
been refabbed there that faces out towards church.
You mean that's
Church
the,
Ave. The white one, it's just been redone.
okay.
You know, there's only the rectory
Right.
and that one.
Right, and the white one on Hayden Road, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and now it's like a multifamily house?
It always,
I think,
Yeah, I think it had been, you know, but the Galranis, and there were like 7 or 8 of them. There were several.
there was a big garage attached to the house at one time. And the father always worked out there in cars. They had a kerosene stove. And Lillian, her name was, always had something
Yeah.
cooking on the stove, warm pudding, they invite. She always had everybody in. It was just a place where kids could go and hang out. So,
Yeah, their oldest son, I think they lost him at the Korean War.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know him,
Victor.
Victor.
So
Yep.
real neighborhood feel, huh?
Yes, it was a real
Well,
neighborhood.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
had the Braleys across the street from the Gallerinis. They had 5 kids. We had the Farrells up the street. We had the Davidges, and then the Cronins moved in. Dave Welch lived right there in the neighborhood. There was, back then, the lots were big behind the houses on Hayden Rose Street, so there was always baseball games or something going on in somebody's backyard. 4th of July cookouts
Yeah.
in the neighborhood, and they would always go and play baseball or football down in Cow Flap Stadium, it was called, which was,
Where was that? You want to talk about that? Cow flap?
Cow Flap
I
Stadium,
know,
well, it
tell
was
everybody what a
infamous.
cow flap is.
Well, you had to be careful. You could use them as bases if they were hard enough. But that was down between Fenton Street and Ash Street. And there was an area there was that we called, that's what we called it. You know, we'd play baseball there and whatnot. So just because there weren't too many fields right around. You know, this one was more than big enough for us, and it was
Right.
kind of had like some stones and stone walls around it. So, you know, it was kind of easy to set up, well, that's a home run or something.
it was old cow pasture, right?
It was, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they used to have, I think, more access from Ash Street. Then they put that house up probably in the 1950s or something. That, at that crest of that first little hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. And we used to go sledding at Thompson. Their name was Thompson, and they lived on Ash Street, right opposite the end of Fenton. It's a big colonial there.
Yep, yep.
There was a
Yeah.
hill there on the side of the house, and we would all go sledding. It was quite steep, and at least we thought it
We
was
thought it
steep
was,
at
yeah,
that age.
yeah.
And we would go over there and go sledding. And then there was further down on Ash Street, there was a rope swing, and we would go down and climb on the rocks. There was a Girl Scout camp or a Boy Scout camp down there, just beyond Pike,
Okay.
on the left.
Okay.
There's now a house in there, but the rocks are still there.
Mm-hmm.
You would climb the rocks, and there was a rope swing. Yep.
Do you recall that too?
No.
No.
No, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Further down Ash Street on the right, past Holt Street, was a pond in the back. And we would go down there in the pond.
Does that pond still exist now?
I don't know if it still exists
Yeah.
now. There's houses
Yeah.
in there now, so I don't
Yeah.
know whether it's been
Yeah.
filled in or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was just a lot of things for kids to do and
Yeah,
just.
outdoors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, you couldn't just sit there today, they're all thumbs.
Yeah. Yeah. Playing with
Yeah.
your handheld computer.
right,
Yeah. Did you go to Lake Whitehall and Maspinock and
Oh, yeah,
and
Maspinock.
all the the reservoirs and
we
yeah.
used to be able to walk to Lake Maspinock from uptown and not have any fears. So you could walk over to the beach, and at that time 495 wasn't here, so you would go down Lumber Street and pick up Hayward Street and go.
That's what
down.
I can't. That's a big change. Would have been a big change, and I've never seen a lot of photographs of the town, but never seen any of that. What that strip looked like. Before West Main was put
Yeah,
in
before,
495.
there were
There's fields.
3 or
and-
4 ranch houses on the left going down, that pretty much were taken by 495,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, but was it wooded? It was wooded.
Yeah, other than that,
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
wooded.
Yeah.
And South Street was probably the worst street in town,
Right,
Bump, bump, bump.
right, right. And a lot of streams. I've heard people say that when they were kids, they'd play in the in the
Ice
woods
House
and the
Pond.
streams. You want to talk about that?
You used to go ice skating down there in Ice House Pond,
Which
Right.
is where people might not know.
where Golden Pond is today,
Okay.
is where Ice House Pond used to be.
Yeah.
Yep. And you would always meet some kids down there, and I had my ice skates stolen at one point and had to walk home barefoot because they were missing. But
The
just
days when you'd put the cover on the blade and you'd walk in your skates. Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
but it was just a nice, small community. As my brother said, it was the best place to grow up. So we had a wonderful childhood here.
It is still smallish, but the thing that strikes me is you still don't know who your neighbors are, And because I didn't grow up here, but I had a similar childhood in that you were outside and you're in the streets and you knew everybody,
Yeah.
Yep.
And you were in and out of all the houses,
Excuse me, may we steal a chair?
Teen Canteen was a big part of Annie knows.
You want to talk
Yeah.
about Teen Canteen,
Yeah, it was dances they used to have in the Congregational Church, and
which is now the Korean
yeah, the
church
Korean
on Main Street.
church, but they'd have those throughout high school. I mean, I was, again, in high school for like 4 years, so, they'd have them every Saturday.
Every Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't there too often because you
No.
were always working. But
Yeah, I always worked a lot. so.
yeah, but Officer Sullivan was always at the door to make sure everything was going well. Oh, but there's always chaperones, parents chaperone brought desserts. So
You remember what kind of music you were listening to?
the Everly Brothers, Johnny Mathis, who, good Lord.
There was some fast music too, the rock and roll type stuff, again, but you'd expect in the late 50s, early
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Good times, huh?
yeah, there's the DJs there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Sticky Wicket too? I haven't had anybody
Sure.
mention that. You want
Yeah,
to?
the Sticky Wicket. They used to have the Black Eagle Jazz Band.
Good place to go, right? I mean, it was pretty well known,
Yes.
Yeah, when
People
that
came
was
from-
thriving,
in the 60s, right?
yeah, I think we had moved out for that period of time, but I had been there a couple of times, and the Yadens ran it, Janet and Foster Yaden. And Janet was from Hopkinton.
She was a Nordmark.
She was a Nordmark. Yeah.
No.
And I think she must have been class of 52 or something like that. She was a few years
I
old.
know her, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know of her, yeah.
And her sister was in
So her
class
sister
with me,
was in
Paula.
Judy's class.
So we just celebrated our 50th class reunion, 50 years. So, yep.
Do you have anything else that before I kind of,
No, I don't.
do you have thoughts on how the town is changing and the direction that it's going in? I mean,
You know, when you ask people that grew up in
Yeah,
the town,
I know.
none of them are happy with the change.
Nobody
Change
likes
isn't good. You know, it's
Or
bad
change
enough
is
your
hard,
body's
yeah.
falling apart. You
Yeah.
gotta,
Well, we moved back here like 37 years ago and
Yeah.
raised 4 kids. And we lived on Curtis Road, which is a dead-end street. Wonderful neighborhood, lots of kids, fields because we abutted the Western nurseries.
so you're talking 70s now? or
Yes.
80s, yeah.
Yes.
70s, 80s.
Yeah, we used to see the mules run up the street with the plows behind them. They'd escape from the workers, or it was Mavis O'Leary's still there, and Russell and Mary Lou live next door to us. The Pines live across the street. It was just a nice family-oriented neighborhood with, like I said, the kids went out, built forts in the woods over in
Yeah.
the nursery fields, and
Yeah.
they all went to school here, graduated from here. As a matter of fact, 3 of them still live here. So we have grandchildren now in the school system here.
So how many generations then in your if you're including your grandchildren, how many, that's a lot of generations in the
3,
town.
right?
For you, you're
Oh.
up to 5 generations.
I'm up to
Yeah, so
Five.
five
You know,
generations.
Yeah.
Grandfather.
So I'm really an
yeah.
old townie.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and that's kind of unusual now because people move around.
Because,
Yeah.
he was born in 1886, so.
Yep.
And so,
He was a woodworker.
a fireman,
Yeah, he was a
policeman, too.
fireman. I remember the old car barn down on the corner where Cololis is now, big red barn. Oh, yep. Don't
they-
remember him ever being much of a talker, though, or telling stories, just was,
What, and his wife was gone because you haven't mentioned
his
her?
first wife died in childbirth. She was giving birth to twins. So she passed away, and at that time, the decision was made that my uncle Doug would stay with my grandfather, and my father and his younger brother went and lived with other families in town.
Wow, that's very interesting.
One was a
Yeah.
teacher. Do you remember her?
Yeah, she's infamous teacher. I mean, you know, she was here for forever, but I can't think of her name right now.
No.
She raised Dean most of the.
But so everybody stayed in the community. They didn't go.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No, they stayed here.
that's interesting too.
So,
you know?
and we're related to Phipps's, Paul Phippson, the McMellans. So we have a lot of ties here in town.
Do you have that in your family too?
No, my family, the first ones up here with my father and mother, you know, from my family. But my father was one of 7 down in Natick, and they went back many years. My grandfather was born in Natick also in 1868. And his father came over on the boat. So, Thomas Murphy.
Murphy, huh? Yeah, yeah.
So,
He was was one of them a policeman in
yeah,
Natick?
my grandfather was a policeman in Natick for 30-something years. I don't know exactly how many.
We didn't stray too far from the area.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
We moved to Framingham after we were married, stayed there for 2 years and moved to Holliston. Didn't stay there too long, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, about
And then
that.
moved to Natick for 7 and then back
Then
here.
back
To
here.
Curtis Road.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the change.
Well, it is. You know, for anybody, the change is always tough. Yeah, and you can always think, yeah, there's some good things, but you know, there's a lot of things that you don't. People don't get out.
Yeah.
But that isn't necessarily because of the people there, you know.
No, it's
they're all
not. It's like
inside
that
doing
everywhere.
stuff.
Yeah, it's well, and their kids are they're not playing baseball in a field, they're playing some structure, they're in
That's
a
right.
league. And,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, there's a pickup game,
yeah,
they wouldn't know what a game of scrub was.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I taught phys ed in Natick for 30-something years. And I have them outside in gym, he mentioned the scrub, nobody had any clue what it was. You know? And that's what we'd play there forever. You could play a game of baseball with 3 people,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yep,
You just had, you
Yeah.
had to be good.
yeah. And no adults telling you what to do or how
Oh,
to do
no.
it. Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
One base and that's it.
yeah, yeah, that's fun. Okay.
Yeah. Little League parades. I mean, we've been through many Little League parade over the course of time. 4th of July parades and how they've changed.
Yeah, Little League started in '54.
Yeah.
First year, I was 10. So I do remember that.
So you played.
I was
you were-
on the
yeah.
team, yeah. I was
Yeah.
on the big, it had a little parade. We thought it was a big parade. You walked a half a mile. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Fred was quite the athlete here. He would never tell you that.
He made a face when you said that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, and thus the phys ed teacher part of it, huh?
Yep. Oh, he and his daughter were elected into the Hall of Fame, so.
For here in town?
Yes.
I'll have to look you up because we have some of the booklets.
Yes, Jessica and Fred are in there
Yeah,
at the same time,
yeah.
so.
Very cool.
So there's a lot of history for us here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you. Unless you have more, and you have anything that you
you
had
know,
stored up.
it's tough to throw things off.
Yeah,
But, you know,
yeah.
when you offer some leading things, you can
Right.
add to them.
Right.
Well, I think when you mention change, I think the biggest change for us has been the development of 135 and Legacy Farms, because
Yeah.
we abut that property, so
Yeah.
it's been a really big change for
Yeah,
us.
Legacy Farm. In just looking at it, it seems like this. Well, there
It's
are
a city.
many developments, but yeah, that's
It's-
something different.
Where it's right, and you can see it from your
Yeah.
backyard. It's a city.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, this was just a farmland. and,
Yeah.
Now it's like 4-story apartments.
Yeah,
and,
pretty dramatic. Yeah.
Yes.
It is. It's severe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think with the other developments being outside of, the town, maybe, they're little bedroom communities, you don't know too much about what's, they're aside, but this one's
It
out
is.
in the open.
It's definitely different than the others. No, they have a lot of beautiful developments in Hopkinton, as you well know.
Yeah.
But, and not that this one is necessarily going to be bad.
We don't know. Yeah, and that's
Right.
that's open to interpretation. Yeah, but it's change. It's a big change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it makes you look at things differently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Well, so I
good.
guess we can conclude this interview. Again, this is Judy and Fred Murphy, and today is the 20th of March, 2014, and I'm Linda Conley, and it was great to talk to you. I
Nice to talk
appreciate
to you,
it.
too.
All right.
No.